Today is Wednesday, June 18th. We have the latest on the growing conflict in the Middle East as President Trump threatens Iran's supreme leader and the White House weighs its options. Also, we're talking about tense moments as another politician is detained by federal immigration agents, and why members of Congress are now getting more protections. Plus, a new study warns about the health effects of cannabis. More big-name food brands are swapping out ingredients. And hockey season's grand finale will tell you who just won the Stanley Cup. Those stories and even more news to know coming up. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Nearly a week into the conflict between Israel and Iran, President Trump met with his top advisors in the Situation Room at the White House. Reports say he's considering a range of options, including a potential U.S. strike against Iran. Already, Trump has seemed to threaten the country, saying the U.S. knows where Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah is hiding. Trump even called the Ayatollah an easy target, but said for now he's choosing not to have him killed. Then the American president called for Iran to embrace a, quote, unconditional surrender, and said the U.S. now has complete control of the skies over Iran. The U.S. is increasing its military presence in the Middle East with ships and aircraft carriers, though for now, the Pentagon says it's just defensive. Trump also spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu yesterday. The leaders didn't say what exactly they talked about, but the AP reports Israel wants more help from Trump to permanently wipe out Iran's nuclear program. Even without outside involvement, Israel and Iran are still attacking one another and doing a lot of damage. Israel now says it killed Iran's new wartime chief of staff and its most senior military commander, just days after his predecessor was also killed. Israel has mostly been able to fend off Iran's retaliatory strikes, but some have gotten through and have had a deadly impact. So the U.S. State Department has created a special task force to help Americans who want to leave Israel and other Mideast countries, but for now, no government evacuations have been announced. About 700,000 Americans are now in Israel, and thousands more are in other Middle East countries. Remember how just a couple of days ago we told you President Trump scaled back certain immigration raids, the ones he said were hurting the agriculture and hospitality industries? Well, now they're back on. News outlets like Reuters and the Washington Post say immigration officials decided to keep targeting farms, restaurants, hotels, and food processing plants. It's not clear why the policy keeps changing, but reports say ICE officials were told no matter what, 3,000 undocumented immigrants should be arrested every day. That's 10 times the average last year during the Biden administration. And ICE field offices apparently said they could not meet the quota without raids at businesses that were exempted. In the latest statement yesterday, the Homeland Security Department said there will be no safe spaces for, quote, anyone who tries to undermine ICE's efforts. And the White House said, quote, anyone present in the United States illegally is at risk of deportation. A New York City mayoral candidate was arrested outside an immigration courthouse this week. Federal agents were originally trying to arrest a man who had just left his immigration hearing. But when they moved in, city controller, also sometimes pronounced comptroller, Brad Lander, locked arms with the immigrant and demanded to see a judicial warrant. News crews took photos and videos of what happened next. In them, you can see for more than 40 seconds, agents tried to physically separate the two men in a chaotic struggle, and both men ended up being taken into custody. The Homeland Security Department says Lander was arrested for assaulting law enforcement and impeding a federal officer. Lander says that's not true, that all he was doing was trying to hold someone's hand. He was released from custody after a few hours, and as of this morning, he has not been charged with a crime. This is just the latest, though, in a string of confrontations between ICE agents and Democratic politicians. For example, a little more than a month ago, Newark, New Jersey's mayor was arrested on a trespassing charge outside a federal immigration detention center. And just last week, U.S. Senator Alex Padilla was forcibly removed from a news conference where Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem was speaking. As for Lander, he says he's going to be back at the immigration court as a nonviolent form of protest. U.S. senators were briefed this week about steps to increase their security in the wake of a Minnesota state legislator's assassination. The exact precautions taken were not publicized because of the obvious security concerns, but now both Democrats and Republicans say there needs to be more funding to keep them safe in their districts and on Capitol Hill. They've both also pointed fingers at each other, with members of each party blaming the other for fanning the flames with politically charged rhetoric. Capitol Police investigated nearly 9,500 threats to lawmakers, their families, and staff last year. That's nearly 1,500 more than the year before and close to the highest level on record. And of course, the threats have continued this year, most recently with the shooting in Minnesota. The suspect allegedly had a target list that included several Democratic lawmakers from all across the Midwest and Southern Plains. By the way, Minnesota is still mourning the shooting, and the traditional presidential response to tragedies is to reach out to local leaders. But President Trump says in this case, he will not be calling Minnesota's Governor Tim Walz, who of course was the Democratic vice presidential nominee last year. Trump yesterday called Walz whacked out and a mess and said calling him would be a waste of time. In response, the governor's office just said this tragedy is not about Trump or Walz, that it's about the victims and the state of Minnesota. So that's what the governor is focused on. In what's considered a big win for the crypto industry, the Senate passed a landmark bill this week. It's known as the Genius Act. It would, for the first time, set up a regulatory framework for the $250 billion stablecoin market that's expected to surge in the coming years. Remember, stablecoins are a type of cryptocurrency tied to the value of an asset like the US dollar. And basically, this bill creates a pathway for private companies to use digital dollars with the government's blessing. It also sets up some guardrails for the industry, like monthly audits. The Genius Act mostly received bipartisan support, even though some Dems fought it, saying there needs to be language addressing corruption as President Trump's cryptocurrency empire grows. It now heads to the House, where it's expected to pass, and President Trump is expected to sign it into law. Meanwhile, big companies like Visa and MasterCard are getting into the stablecoin sector, and Amazon and Walmart could be next. To be continued. More news is still coming up, but first, a quick break to thank our sponsor, Skylight. If your brain feels like it's already at full capacity with to-dos, errands, birthdays, dinner plans, and more, Skylight Calendar is for you. I mean, it's really for any family that wants to get more organized and streamlined. It syncs your entire family's schedule onto a sleek digital display so you can focus more on the important things, like actually drinking your coffee in peace, for example. I have loved our Skylight calendar. It helps keep my husband and I on the same page with synced calendars, synced lists, and meal plans. And it gives my kiddo a place to check off his routine each day in a really fun way. And I can't speak highly enough about the way you can upload pictures, PDFs, URLs, birthday invitations, and more, and it'll just auto-load what you need right into your recipes or calendar. Amazing. And get this, if in 120 days you are not 100% thrilled with your purchase, you can just return it for a full refund, no questions asked. Plus, right now, Skylight is offering our listeners $30 off their 15-inch calendars by going to skylightcal.com/newsworthy. Go to skylightcal.com/newsworthy for $30 off your 15-inch calendar. It's skylightcal.com/newsworthy. Now back to the news. As more people start to use marijuana around the country, new research is coming out about the health impacts. A study published in the journal Heart yesterday pooled medical data from 200 million people, mostly between the ages of 19 and 59. And it found using cannabis actually doubles the risk of dying from heart disease. Granted, there were some limitations to the study, like it did not get into the exact dosage of what's considered risky. It's also not clear if the risk changes depending on how you consume the drug, like if you smoke versus take an edible. Either way, recreational marijuana is now legal in 24 states, and a Carnegie Mellon University report last year found daily marijuana users now outnumber daily drinkers for the first time ever. Now, the latest study authors are calling for the drug to be treated like tobacco, not criminalized, but discouraged, and they called for more protection against secondhand exposure. Some of the largest food and drink manufacturers in the U.S. are now saying goodbye to artificial colors. Kraft Heinz, known for mac and cheese, ketchup, Jell-O, Capri Sun, and more, said it would remove all synthetic food coloring from its foods sold in the U.S. by the end of the year 2027. Then General Mills, known for its cereals, Yoplait yogurt, Pillsbury baking products, and more, made almost the exact same announcement. Both companies say it actually is not going to be much of a change, since only 10 to 15% of their products include the dyes now anyway. Of course, this all comes as the new health department under Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has been raising concerns about artificial colorings. At this point, RFK Jr. just says health agencies have an understanding with food companies to remove dyes voluntarily. So more announcements could be coming, though they aren't mandatory. For the first time, streaming services have officially eclipsed traditional television, at least when it comes to overall viewership. The latest Nielsen report says YouTube, Netflix, Hulu, and other streaming services combined to make up nearly 45% of all TV watched, as compared to about 44% for broadcast and cable networks. Now, keep in mind, this comes in the summer when football is out of season and most broadcast shows are on hiatus. Still, Nielsen expects it won't be long before streaming sets a winning streak for good. It took the Florida Panthers 30 years to win their first Stanley Cup championship, and now, just 1 year later, they've won their second, once again by beating the Edmonton Oilers. The Panthers won it in 6 games this time, and the same player who scored the cup-clinching goal last year had 4 goals this year, and last night the final score was 5-1. Already, there's talk of a modern-day dynasty. But for now, the players and the fans are busy celebrating. A championship parade is expected to roll through the streets of Fort Lauderdale this weekend. Well, that's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Work Wednesday, when we break down one interesting career or work-related news story every Wednesday. But first, I want to take a moment to talk about our sponsor, Fatty 15. When you think about what essential fatty acid might help your health, you'll want to add C15 to your list. In fact, Fatty 15 C15 supplement has 3 times more cellular benefits than omega-3 or fish oil. Though you're not alone if you haven't heard of it. Fatty 15 co-founder Dr. Stephanie Van Watson discovered the benefits of C15 while working with the U.S. Navy to continually improve the health and welfare of aging dolphins. It eventually led to studies finding what the company calls the first new nutritional deficiency in 75 years called cellular fragility syndrome, and as many as 1 in 3 people worldwide may have it. So to help fix this and further extend our health and longevity, a team of doctors working with the U.S. Navy spent over a decade to develop the pure, optimized, and bioavailable C15 ingredient in Fatty 15. Thankfully, Fatty 15 repairs age-related damage to cells, protects them from future breakdown, and activates pathways in the body that help regulate our sleep, mood, and natural repair mechanisms that support our overall health. I personally love that you can get all those benefits through a vegan-friendly supplement that has 0 flavors, no aftertaste, no fillers, no allergens, and no preservatives. Fatty 15 is on a mission to optimize your C15 levels to help you live healthier, longer. You can get an additional 15% off their 90-day subscription starter kit by going to fatty15.com/newsworthy and using the code newsworthy at checkout. Okay, now back to Work Wednesday. Fewer Americans are able to really work the 9 to 5 these days, and when there aren't enough hours to get everything done, more people are working late into the night. Microsoft looked at millions of workers who use the company's business applications, and it found in the last year, the number of meetings people logged after 8 p.m. were up 16% from the year before. By 10 p.m., nearly a third of them were back in their inboxes, and many of them are up again at 6 a.m. working. At least one reason for the overtime is it can be hard to actually get much done with all the distractions during business hours. Microsoft found the average worker is interrupted every 2 minutes by a meeting, an email, or a chat notification during a standard 8-hour shift. But the trend could also come down to habit. Many workers started working at all hours during the pandemic when remote work became more common. Now, even though fewer people are fully remote, a lot of work is still happening on the fly when people have time. And while that could be good for flexibility, surveys show it's not great for burnout, since it feels like the work never ends. Microsoft says it believes artificial intelligence can help to at least offset some of the overload. But at least for now, it doesn't seem to be making a dent. Well, thank you so much for listening today and sharing the show with friends and family or coworkers who may also want to feel more informed on a daily basis. We'll be back tomorrow to keep you in the know. Until then, have a great day.